Hi, my name's Andy, and on today's video, we're going to cover the finished trim of the theater room and what I put up, where I put it, and why I chose those particular items. So let's look at it. So like most rooms that you have in a home, you're going to have the baseboard trim. Around most rooms you have that. So we've got baseboard trim here, and then we've got what's called chair rail that goes around the middle of the room. It typically goes along. You don't always have to have a wainscoting style material. For those that aren't familiar with wainscoting, it's typically a wooden pattern or some sort of patterned lower section of the wall, and a lot of times the top can be just drywall, or there'd be wallpaper, or they'll have full wall wooden wall set up, and a lot of times they're split up by a chair rail. There's lots of different styles, but for this room, we've got the baseboard, the chair rail, and then we've got crown molding up here at the top. And they're different styles of trim. For those that aren't familiar, when you go to the store to buy trim, there are three different, they're clearly different, they're labeled different, and they have different purpose, different designs. There's all kinds of designs that have, there'll be rounded edges or sharp edges, all kinds of stuff that you can get. In fact, if I were you, I'd stay away from, if you can, the popular, Home Depot and Lowe's and that kind of stuff in terms of finished trim. Go to your local, most of you guys have a local wood shop in town that sells finished material, and it is much cheaper. I'm not trying to take away from those big chain stores, but they call them their million dollar aisle for a reason. What they charge for finished trim is, it's out of control. Anyways, so buying this kind of stuff, especially when you're going to do a room, if you were going to do just one wall, it may be not worth the hassle, but when you're doing a room, let alone a whole house, you can really start to see a savings if you go to your local hardware shop. So after we got those three, then we have this type of trim, and excuse me, I don't recall what it's called, but this type of, it's just a framing trim that there's nothing. This is just a wood a panel of MDF, and then I just size this so it looks like kind of a picture frame or window frame on this section. And when you're designing this stuff, this style, you want to try to keep in mind your margins that you have. Ideally, they're the same margin all the way around, but when you've got, for example, like on my stage here, the stage kind of cuts out into it, and so it's actually wider here than it is there, but down below it matches that same width. So, and then when you go to each, in this case, because I've got them separated by those speaker columns, I go to the next one, try to recreate that pattern around the room to all of the various walls. You can cut it so that it follows the cutout of the stage. So I could have put a 90 here and kind of gone around that way, and that would have been probably better if you're really kind of gonna try to go for that extra punch on your finished trim. For this, especially when the light's out, you don't see it, but really it's more for, when you first come into the room, every little additional detail just kind of adds to that wow when you walk into some room. And some people really want that. Some people just want it to just sound good. Some people want it to be comfortable, so the particular chairs they pick. In this case, I was trying to go for a little bit nicer room on the finished trim, but not overboard. So after you do those three, and then you've got the framing on the wainscoting, the stage can also, you can really go crazy on the trim of the stage. I carried the same type of design from here over into this area, and then I switched to a slightly different design. It's difficult to tell on the camera, but there's actually a radius on this surface, and then these two steps of the stage, and trying to carry that around. And I tried to go from this more rectangular, angular type of design to something a little more rounded here. And with my limits of my creativity, I was only able to take it so far. I kind of ran out of ideas with these cupboard type of doors. They're just meant to access behind the stage here. They're purely aesthetic. There's no value to them other than just access to behind the stage. Maybe I could have finished the trim around the inside of these panels. They get the same speaker material here that I've got on here and on the speaker towers, and the same material that's on the walls. But with these, I was trying to keep it simple, but also change the design from the rest of the room. Did I do a good enough job? I guess that's subjective. And then what I didn't do is I didn't carry the crown molding around. I guess the surface has got a radius to it as well. I didn't carry it around up here, partly because I didn't know how to cut that. In this corner, there's about an inch and a half that this comes out this way, and then it goes back at like a 25-30 degree angle that way, and then I've got a greater than 90 angle here, and then it goes at so kind of cutting this crown molding all the way around that edge there. Some of you guys can probably figure that out. I really wasn't in a position to do that, and in the end, unless you point it out, nobody's going to notice it. But so for the finished trim on the stage, I tried to keep it simple, but try to change the design from the rest of the room, and I was able to pull it off. So going around the rest of the room, again, I just kept that same design that I had on the other wall as we went down this wall, and you have to break it up a little bit because of the door that we have down here. It does change it just a little bit. I don't have crown molding above the door like I have here, mostly because of the height. This is a custom door. I had to, because I've got this soffit up top and the limitations of the floor joists that are above this room, and the fact that there's a step up to the second row, all of that makes that height for the door much shorter, so I had to custom cut that door. Anyways, I didn't have room for the crown molding up there, so it stops at the speaker tower, and then I pick it back up over there. So that's how we just wrap up the finished trim on this wall, and as you go around the room. And the last piece of the puzzle of the trim, I've got trim here on this edge, then I've got the same fabric material that I have on the walls, just to kind of break up the ceiling a little bit with these can lights, and then I've got more crown molding. And I originally didn't have, you can see the lights up above here. I didn't have this piece of wood here originally. I just thought that this crown molding would hide everything, but once I put those lights in, I realized you could still see them, and not only can you see the lights, there's a little bit of light coming out of the back of those cans, which something I may have to address down the road. But I did add this piece of wood here. I just painted the same color that is the ceiling, but this is just regular crown molding, and there's actually a lip back here, and you can feel there's LED lights that I put in a previous video. These LED lights are just sitting inside. You can see the reflection on my hand, just glued. There's just an adhesive on the back of the LED lights that are they just stick to this crown molding, and then creates this glow around the room, and so I like how that came out. All right, so that takes care of doing all the trim in the room and what I put and where I put it. Hopefully that was helpful for some of you guys. If you have any questions, if you want to see anything else on this room, let me know. I'd be happy to make a video for you and see if I can help you out, maybe give you some ideas for your room when you're designing it and what you're going to put in there. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.